Hello everyone. Welcome back to Tony Sports Games for another video. This is a season recap video for my team in our online league, the SimNation College Football League, or SNCFL. It's one of the longest running online leagues for draft day sports college football that are out there. This was my first season in the league. I can't give it enough stars. It was so fun. I've played these games for years offline in sandbox mode or single player modes, and multiplayer was just kicking everything up to another level. So I'm so glad that I was able to get involved with it this year. I can't wait for next season, and it was a ton of fun. So if you're considering, giving online a try, I would say definitely do it. It's a lot of fun. If you're interested, I'll link our Discord in the description. I know the Wolverine Studios Discord is linked on my channel description as well. We'd love to get you in here. We have a lot of great teams available, and excited to be moving to Draft Day Sports College Football 2026 after the season flip, now that our season has ended, which actually that's going to be processed tonight. So we will be off of 2025 into 2026, and we're really excited for that. Also, I wanted to give a special shout out just at the beginning of this video to a very special friend, a guy from work who started watching my videos. Trevor, you're the best, man. Thanks so much for the support, and thanks for making all of our days better. Everyone at the office, every time we see you, you're a ray of sunshine, buddy. Never change. Never change. And away we go into the video. So, as I said, this was my first year playing in the SNCFL. Um, Also, I should definitely say, thanks to Darren, our commissioner. He does a great job with this from SimNation. Thank you to Shark, who first tried to recruit me several years ago to join this online league. I wish I would have listened to you then, buddy, but thanks for pushing me in the right direction because it was a lot of fun. And thank you to all the coaches in our league that are just a lot of fun to play with and very helpful. I wish you guys all a successful off season, and we'll look forward to seeing what everyone's teams can do next season. Also, we have a couple new coaches I know that have joined within the last couple days here. I know Froggy, I believe, is a new coach. He's going to be jumping into the AAC North, taking over UCF. So I'm excited to see how Froggy does. And then there's another one, I think Kevin. Yeah, Kevin taking over the Iowa Hawkeyes. So good luck to you guys as well as you hop in for your first off season. And we have room for plenty more. So please give us a shout out if you're interested in joining. So this was my first year in the league. As I mentioned, I took over the Southern Methodist Mustangs, and I took over at the end of last year, before the end of last year, after bowl games, I think while the playoffs were going on. So I had a couple weeks before the true end of the season and the season flip to comb through my roster to see what, I had to work with, and then to make some decisions on cutting or keeping guys. So I did a lot of cutting. There were some good players still on the roster that I kept, but I think I ended up cutting, I don't know, 40, 50 players, over half of the players that would have been returning. I also even cut, a number of the incoming freshmen that had accepted scholarship offers from the CPU. Kind of a scumbag move, but, it's a game, so I sent them on their way. Um, I had a lot of talent gaps that I just didn't want to wait 2, 3 years to really overhaul the talent on the roster. So we made a ton of cuts. I combed through the scrap heap at the end of the season of, unrecruited recruits. And then, of course, I had the off-season recruiting, the transfer portal, a handful of guys that decommitted from their schools due to coaching changes. And so we ended up, I believe, with 30 transfers on this team, and I think 30 or 31 or 32, somewhere around 30 true freshmen as well. So we had a lot of new faces. Um, and I guess we'll start off just with, an overview of the season. If you look at our, results, I mean, the season went really well. Overall, it went a lot better than I expected. I didn't know what my expectations should have been, but we were able to go 10-4, which was great. We won the American Athletic Conference Championship game in a rematch against East Carolina, who beat us pretty handily in the regular season, as you can see a couple weeks before. And then we made it into the playoffs with the last seed, and we did fall then to eventual national champions, Maryland Terrapins. That's Darren's team. But we put up a good fight in that one. We had a lead actually in the second half, weren't able to hold it, but I, you know, pretty happy with how the season went overall. A couple things that went my way, or I got a little lucky on. Um, some things that just kind of broke favorably for us this year. First, obviously, it was a tough game out of the gate. My first game in an online league against UCLA, who actually ended up playing Maryland in the championship game. But this is Stewart's number one squad, and as you can see, they absolutely crushed us. Um, but a couple things in the schedule here, if we look at it, you do not see Houston anywhere. And Houston, if we look, they probably were the most talented team in the AAC South. I don't know what kind of bug caused us not to have, all the teams in our own division on the schedule. Hopefully I think that's going to be fixed in the 26 version, but not having to play Houston definitely was a favorable break for us. You think if that game was early in the season when I was kind of still getting my feet under me, or if it would have even been a road game, we could have easily lost that, which would have flipped the results for the AAC South. Also, you know, this Memphis team, this is Van's team now, but Van did not take over until a couple weeks into the season. So he's, working on installing a new system, I think offense and defense. I was messaging him today actually asking if he had any thoughts on his team he wanted to include it in the season recap. He said, basically he's overhauling a lot of things and changing some players' positions. So he's going to have to wait and see if, he loses a lot of guys via the transfer portal. But he'll have them on the right track next year. But he didn't get the benefit of an off season like I did. And when you see, our game against each other, our game against Memphis, it was still really close. It actually went to overtime. So this one really could have gone either way. We had some favorable breaks late in this game that enabled us to pull it out. We got a couple, turnover luck went our way in this game. That game could have also changed the dynamics of my, season. Either of those two games, playing Houston, possibly losing, or if the coin flips the other way and we lose to Van, could have kept us from getting as far as we did. But um, we made a lot of progress through the middle part of the season here. I beat up on some CPU teams and just learned to game plan a little better than maybe I had just playing sandbox mode. The one part of the schedule, if you look at week 3 here, this loss at Arkansas State, I really was still getting my feet under me and figuring out what type of a team we were going to have. This was probably a pretty poorly coached game for me. I don't think I had a great game plan yet or a sense of how to prepare for them. They are a decent CPU run team. They have some talent on the roster, but if we redo this at the end of the season, maybe I put together a plan. So I might have cost myself at least one loss here. Overall, a lot of things went very favorably for us, though. We had a lot of turnovers, but our defense, my defense, which wasn't good, outside the top 100 in pass defense, decent rush defense by the end of the year, but not a very good defense overall. They still forced, I think, 35 turnovers. So we had a plus 10 turnover differential on the year. That helped a lot. We only allowed 19 sacks, which actually was like bottom 25, but for piecing together an offensive line, I didn't know how they would perform. It's not a massive number. It wasn't enough to like keep us from being able to function offensively. And I may have underrated some of the pieces that we brought in on offense because, as you can see, by the end of the year, we were a very balanced offense, almost top 20 in both passing and rushing. We definitely had some pieces to work with there. My defensive coaching needs a lot of work, but I'll save that for another time. I have a lot to learn there. If you look at our um, looking ahead, then, so we finished 10-4. We gained 3 in prestige, so we're up to 62, I think now, or 63. Um, Obviously, one of the things we have to look at is who we are losing and what production we need to replace. It's actually not a ton because I have a very young team overall. As you can see, we have a lot of freshmen and redshirt freshmen. So in a couple years from now, we're going to have a massive recruiting class, but a lot of freshmen, sophomores, not as many juniors and seniors. So we don't have a ton to replace, but we have a few key positions we need to replace here. First and foremost, definitely our best player on the team here was this receiver, Richard Runyon, and he's only a junior. I obviously really hope he comes back to school. He's going to be very key for our offense next year. If he does go to the pros, I have some depth at the wide receiver position, but I don't have another player like this. So, we'll see what happens there. Um, on defense, our main really production, our main production we're losing. If you look at defensively, right here, our leading tackler, my strong safety, Rene Zamora, is a senior. He will be leaving. Obviously, him leading the team in tackles has a lot to do with how bad the defense was, but solid player for us this year. Also added 3 sacks, an interception, a forced fumble. Um, Actually, not a horrific player in pass coverage. I mean, he allowed over a 50% catch rate, but functional there. So that's going to be a big loss to fill. Now, I do have an heir apparent on the roster. The only issue is I got greedy and redshirted him coming into this year, so I don't know. And you see, he has very low team player grade. He's not a terrible social type, but so I don't know if he's going to transfer. If he doesn't transfer, we have a strong safety to take Zamora's place. If not, that's going to be a pretty good gap to fill. It's a little bit of a step down to these next guys that will be returning. Also at corner, um, we have our best corner to replace here. This is Ahmad Keenan. This was really an interesting player for me. Now, he was here his whole career. I did not bring him in. Um, an interesting season he had. As you can see, he's undersized, which a lot of the human coaches in this game, myself included, we like tall, long corners. So he really doesn't profile as a great man-to-man cover. He has decent speed, but nothing too impressive. Decent agility, nothing too impressive. Um, but if you look at the season he had, now he wasn't elite at preventing catches, but as you can see, he's a little over 50%, but he was functional, a little better than I would have expected in that. But if you look right here, this is a guy that forced 12 fumbles in his career as a corner. He only had 1 interception this year, only 14 passes defensed, down from a couple years prior. But right here, 12 fumbles. He forced 4 fumbles this year. And, you look at this strength rating, it doesn't seem like much, but it is the highest among my corners. And his tackling rating, 61, is also the highest among the corners I have on the roster. So, I don't know. Just it was a little bit interesting to me that I actually had benched him at one point in the season or moved him from outside corner to nickel because I thought he was the problem with the passing defense. But He really wasn't. It was probably more coaching than personnel. And when I moved him back outside the last half of the year, he had a really good season. So I don't know, something for me to learn from. He also has pretty solid intelligence for a corner. I'm just going to keep that in the back of my mind. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the caliber of cornerback talent that I really want these first couple of years in terms of, height, speed, agility to really play a lot of man coverage. But I have an archetype here of somebody who, is a sure tackler and can force turnovers in a different way with fumbles. So I'll have to just keep that in mind. Obviously, he has really high competitiveness and intangibles as well. But enough on him. But we do have to replace him. He's our best corner, so that's a definite position of need as we go forward here. Also, we lose a couple guys up front. Um, the most important guy that we'll have back is Joseph Flowers. This was a guy, one of our most important additions through the portal. He's a Michigan transfer, so he came into the league recruited by Stu at Michigan. He hit the portal after redshirting his freshman year, and I scooped him up. Had some competition from some other schools to get him, but we got him. I expect this to be a pretty dominant player in at this level, in the AAC, and he was pretty good. 23 quarterback hurries, 15 knockdowns, 4 forced fumbles, 8 sacks, leading the team in sacks, forced fumbles, I think also in knockdowns and hurries. So I guess he was more than pretty good. He was very good, and I'm looking for him to be a huge part of what we do going forward. But we lose kind of our other two starting defensive end or rotation starting defensive ends in this guy James Miranda, been at SMU his whole career, pretty solid player. Didn't have a monster season. I was expecting a little bit more out of him, but due to the rotation things we had, he wasn't really playing as many snaps as I had expected. But then this guy also, Ruben Saunders, strong defensive end. He played quite a bit for us, and he performed pretty well. As you can see, he played more snaps than Miranda, and he was pretty productive. So we have a couple players up front to replace. Um, in the middle up front, we don't really lose anybody. I would like to fortify this. I don't think we have anyone that's really a true, nose tackle type or, elite strength. So, I mean, I would like to add to it. But our most important player here this year was probably Johnny Bolin, who, he had 5 sacks, played a lot in a lot of games for us. So he should be back. But we're not missing much else on defense. We'll see what happens in the portal, but really just those 4 guys, Zamora, Keenan, and the 2 defensive ends, Sanders and Miranda. If we look at offensive production that we'll have to be replacing, this guy right here, our second leading rusher, Bruce Box, he rushed for almost 800 yards. He played more, carried the ball more at the beginning of the season. As we went on towards the end of the season, I kind of started feeding the rock to this freshman Anthony Bowles more. He just did better as the year went on, but we will have to replace him. My running quarterback here, Joseph Ford, he was nice in some packages for us. He did struggle with morale throughout the season. It's high now, so I'm hopeful he doesn't transfer because I like to have that chess piece available, but we'll see. And, we don't really lose much else on offense at the skill positions. The one other area we do have a bit to replace is up front. Replacements on an offensive line that played pretty well this year. Over 430 pancakes, which was 20th best in the country, and only 42 missed blocks as a unit, which tied for 27th fewest. So, we ran a ton of plays on offense. We pancaked. We did allow some sacks, but we did not miss as many blocks as, or it could have been a lot worse. So that was nice to see. But this guy, our left tackle, our best overall offensive lineman, is leaving. So we'll have to replace him. And then my two starting guards um, at least in run formations. I think Duff started in both potentially, but Harry Duff, senior guard, leaving us, and then also Simon Bouchard. So we have a few losses to replace, but we do have a lot of returning production. Looking forward to the off season. We'll see how our recruiting class shapes up. Now, I will say I have the numbers to replace the offensive line losses in this recruiting class. I believe I have 3 tackles and 3 guards signed, as well as 1 center. Whether they turn out to be really good players or not, I don't know. This is our highest graded or rated recruit, this offensive tackle recruit. Not great coach grades. I mean, we did have some competition from some other human run schools, so I wasn't the only one that saw something in him, but I don't know how good. I don't think he's going to end up being the best player out of this recruiting class, but we'll see. We do recruit a couple corners to try to shore up the secondary, and we've got a couple receivers coming in as well, and a couple running backs. One that I am pretty high on is this guy, Hazik Jackson. He, um, you know, agility, speed, strength, so everything you're kind of looking for there. Some pretty nice coach grades. We'll see where he turns out, but on paper, this recruiting class has a lot of the things I was looking for. The one thing I really failed to secure was a quarterback. If you look at my lost targets, oh, you know what? I guess I hid most of them. Yeah. Okay. These are all the guys that I attempted to recruit and didn't get any of them, moved them all to the hidden list. So, I do have quarterbacks returning. It would be nice to get an upgrade, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen, at least not before the portal. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't necessarily want to cut anyone else. We'll see what's in the portal, but that's one area I wasn't able to really upgrade. Other than that, we're going to go into the offseason, see how we can improve the team. I don't think I should have to replace too much on the coaching staff, but we'll see. And then as I look ahead to, kind of the American Athletic Conference, we have, myself, Houston. They are CPU run, but they have a lot of talent on the team. They're not going to be a cakewalk. And then Van here at Memphis, he's going to have them better next year than they were this year. So that's going to be a challenge for us in the South. In the North, we have Froggy coming in to take over UCF. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. I'll take a closer look at recruiting classes after those finalize, maybe in the season preview for next year. But I know they have, some pieces to work with here. Probably need a quarterback, and as far as CPU teams in the North here, I mean Cincinnati does have a lot of talent. They just had a rough year after DWK dropped them to move on to other ventures, but that would be a good team for someone to take. Temple has a pretty decent squad. And then East Carolina, who I had to play twice this year, they really just need a quarterback. And I don't see, okay, they have a quarterback. See, he doesn't have good technique. He's probably a dual threat quarterback. But, I mean, they really just need someone to take over and recruit a decent quarterback. Because if you look at their receivers, they've got multiple guys returning here that are really good players. This guy, Galarza, really good player. He's big, competitive, fast, agile. And this guy as well, Aravelo, again, good, competitive, good size, agile, fast, decent hands. I mean, this year they had a one-star quarterback, former one-star quarterback, throw for 4,500 yards. So they like to throw it a lot. They really just need a better quarterback. So if they could, get that, they're going to be tough to deal with next year too. So that's kind of, my thoughts on our conference. Obviously, we'll take a look at the recruiting rankings once they come back. Then real quick before I end the video, if we look forward kind of to next year, if we look at the recruiting rankings as they stand now, you see a lot of familiar names up here. Michigan, congrats to Stu on getting the #1 overall recruit, this receiver. I wasn't even looking at any of these guys because they would not even look my way, but maybe in future years we'll be able to get up there. But you have Invisible up here towards the top with several recruits for Auburn. I see UCLA up here several times, more Auburn, Michigan, Oklahoma State, Georgia, Sharks up here. This is Darren's other team, Washington State. So a lot of familiar faces up at the top. We'll see where the recruit rankings shake out once the classes are revealed. But I think that's going to do it for this season review. I will return with a season preview once we finish the off season, and looking forward to that. Thank you to all the coaches in the league. You made it a lot of fun for me this year. I can't wait for next year. And thank you all for watching. I appreciate your time. And as always, I will see you in the next video.